Okay, so now let's talk about kingdom. अच्छा बाकी आ रहे हैं अभी चलें जल्दी से आ जाएं. Okay, now let's talk about kingdom planty. और planty के बारे में तो मेरे ख्याल से आप सबको पता ही है, आप कोई परेशानी वाली बात नहीं होनी चाहिए, लेकिन still again we will talk about all of the points. So number one, of course, the plants, they are multicellular eukaryotic organisms. Eukaryotic. Okay, they're multicellular and they're eukaryotic. And of course, talking about again at cellular level, they have cell walls, which are made up of cellulose. Okay. Number two, इसको भी मैं double line से कर देता हूं so that we know these are subpoints. Okay, and then of course they have large permanent vacuoles. And then again, they also have this idea of ability of differentiating into specialized cells, okay, to form tissues and organs, which is levels of organization. Tissues and organs. Okay. Or इसी तरह they possess chloroplasts, and since they possess chloroplasts, they perform a very important process known as photosynthesis. Of course, the detail of which we have seen clearly. And then, of course, sometimes they can have flagella also. And of course, you know, flagella is for movement. In terms of their mode of nutrition, they are autotrophs. Or autotrophs or autotrophic mode of nutrition basically means they can synthesize their own organic compounds. Able to synthesize their own organic compounds. Of course, ऊपर मैंने लिखा है photosynthesis, लेकिन if you're talking about their mode of nutrition in isolation, so you have to mention all of that detail by photosynthesis, जिसमें light energy को capture करके it's converted into chemical energy. Of course, all of that is obvious and that has to be mentioned. Okay, and then they have complex body forms. Again, ये जो words मैं लिख रहा हूँ, ये key words हैं. So make sure that you take note of them, okay? All right. Let me see, am I missing anything from plants? Autotrophs here, cell walls here, flagella here. Yeah, that's almost all the points that we need to know. Plant cells. Now let's come on to the fungi. ठीक है, fungi सबसे interesting है. और फंगाई के बारे में जो पहले मैं आपको आपकी बुक में बहुत अच्छी अच्छी तस्वीरें दी हैं, मल्टी सेलुलर की भी, यूनिसेलुलर की भी. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द पॉइंट्स फर्स्ट, फिर मैं आपको देता हूँ पिक्चर्स, इन सब की देता हूँ, because it's always good to go through pictures. Okay, so again let me draw a line here. So in terms of fungi, we need to know all of them are of course eukaryotic cells. They have eukaryotic cells. But again, talking at cellular level, number one, their cell walls don't have cellulose, but their cell walls have something known as chitin or chitin, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And then they don't have cilia. No cilia. Uske baad, in terms of बस ठीक है, cellular level पे इतना. Cellular level पे असल में और बातें हैं, लेकिन इंशाल्लाह वो हम अभी बाद में बात करते हैं. So the next thing that you need to know is their nutrition. Okay, their nutrition is heterotrophs and autotrophs. Oh, sorry, not autotrophs, heterotrophs. Trophs, और इसी में एक categorization है जिसको हम कहते हैं saprophytes. ठीक है. So what exactly is saprophytic mode of nutrition? Well, what happens is if that's a fungus, okay, for example, what it will do is it will secrete enzymes out of its body, and the enzymes will digest food on the outside. That's food, or मेरे ख्याल से A levels के लिए food बहुत एक simple word है, organic matter on the outside. It has to decay. The enzymes will come and act on the organic matter. Digestion will take place. Okay. And once digestion has taken place, the digested matter will diffuse back into the fungus. So all of this is known as extracellular digestion. ठीक है? और ये, that's one of the reasons why fungi are one of the classical decomposers. जो दो main decomposers हैं, they are bacteria and fungi. Bacteria, they also perform saprophytic mode of nutrition for the ones that do decompositions. Okay. All right, and similarly, we can call them as parasites also. Okay, parasites, आपको पता है, are basically disease, extracellular, or basically being disease causing, or their mode of reproduction is through production of spores. Reproduction, yani कि they produce spores which fall onto surfaces, and when they get the correct conditions, that's basically when they grow and emerge. So let me quickly give you pictures now for all of what we have discussed so far. तो ये देखें फंगस की पहले मैं आपको देता हूँ. This picture that I'm giving you is a typical picture of how fungus would look like. This is a multicellular fungi, of course. ये जो आपको धुआं नजर आ रहा है, ये बेचारा फंगस डिप्रेस्ड नहीं है और ये सूटे नहीं मार रहा. This is basically release of microscopic spores. Okay, this is how they release spores. And then of course you have this picture. It's a lovely picture, animated picture again of your own textbook, which is basically explaining how the individual parts they look like, especially the hyphae and the mycelium. I'm sure these names are sune. O levels में आपने इनकी काफी detail देखी हुई है. So you have some spore producing bodies जहाँ से spores आप देख रहे हैं निकल रहे हैं. फिर you have this mesh of noodles, if you like. They're known as mycelium. और ये जो individual है, जो mesh है सारा, उसके individual, ये जो एक चीज है, इसको हम hyphae कहते हैं. So it's hyphae, and that's the detail of hyphae that they're showing you. Again, you can see it has a cell wall, और एक nucleus दिखाया हुआ है उन्होंने, लेकिन multiple nuclei basically होते हैं. यहाँ से enzymes, they are secreted on the outside for saprophytic nutrition basically to take place. Okay. चलिए जी, now so basically again going back to the big picture, so that is basically the classification of तो हमने detail में देखा है, we saw the points for bacteria, archaea, and eukarya, and then we've seen in detail the classification and the points for eukaryotes. Now the last thing that you need to know about classification is about viruses. Now, why are viruses not included in this domain system? उसकी हम बात करते हैं, लेकिन let's first talk about the very basic features of what a virus is all supposed to be about. Okay, बच्चों अभी तक I hope everybody is so far so good. I know आज का topic इस तरह का है, उसमें कोई conceptual चीज नहीं है. These are all hard facts that you need to remember, but I hope there's nothing that you are getting worried about. I hope everybody is okay so far so good. Okay, challenge. So the first point that we need to know about viruses is, और इसके बारे में मैं point से लिख रहा हूँ, that they are only visible using electron microscopes. Okay, they're only visible using electron microscopes, and they are known as acellular, which basically means you know, the scientists, they actually have a dispute कि क्या viruses को cells कहना भी चाहिए या नहीं कहना चाहिए, and they have their own reasoning for that. But basically they are acellular, which basically means that they don't have typical cellular structure. यानी कि they are not considered as cells, इनको हम particles कह देते हैं. And I will come to the reasons why that's the case, not cells. Okay. बच्चों एक सेकंड होल्ड करें, मेरे पेन की निब लिख लिख के सोचे प्लास्टिक भी टेढ़ा हो जाता है. चले anyhow. Number 3. They are basically made, if I were to draw a very simple basic virus, it should look like the following. This is a typical picture of a bacteriophage. Yes, this is a virus जिसका नाम bacteriophage है. Why is this known as bacteriophage? Well, because this virus that I'm drawing is attacks bacteria, इसलिए इसको bacteriophage कहते हैं. Now, again, different viruses can have different structure and functions. There are two main things that you can see in this. You can clearly see that there's this outer coat, and it is known as capsid, and it is made up of protein. ठीक है? और ये जो अंदर है nucleic material, it is either DNA or RNA. Can be either of them. Okay? Either DNA or RNA, and that's it. ये जो बाकी नीचे चीजें हैं, ये जो legs हैं, all of this is only specific for this particular type of virus, because when it attaches itself to the bacterial cell wall, the only thing that is inserted is actually the DNA. So इसीलिए that's not actually part and parcel of the very important parts of the virus. So number 3, they are made up of proteins and nucleic acids. Proteins and nucleic acid is basically their composition. And of course, nucleic acid, either it's DNA or it's RNA. So that's their composition. And this is one of the reasons why they are known as acellular. Okay. Acha ji. Now, when they are free, you have to understand that they basically depend on host for reproduction. Depend on host cells to reproduce. Yani कि they can't reproduce on their own. They need to invade the cell, और जिस cell को वो invade करते हैं उसको host cell कहते हैं. It will actually use the biochemical chemical reactions and the machinery, if you like, to literally gunpoint पे किसी भी cell के nucleus को जाके invade कर लेता है, and it actually I mean, sounds quite strange and dramatic, but it actually asks the nucleus to make copies of its own cells and stop doing the work that the nucleus itself is doing. Okay, so that's basically, and eventually, of course, it will destroy the host cell. फिर इसकी detail है lytic cycle, non-lytic, of course, हमारे उस detail में हमने नहीं जाना. They are, now the reasons why they are not based on any of these domain classification system is there are basically 3 ways in which they are classified. Okay, basis of classification. So their basis of classification is the following. Number 1, the type of disease they cause. और आपको मजे की बात बताऊं कि जो कोरोना वायरस है ये आज का नहीं है, काफी पुराने का है. The coronavirus is basically a family of viruses. SARS virus भी इसी की family का है. Number 2, the type of their nucleic acid. Okay, either DNA or RNA, and then if either the nucleic acid is single-stranded or double-stranded. Okay, so that's basically the basis of this. और ये आपका classification का पूरा topic जो है, this basically ends. Of course, I've tried to make it as non-boring as possible with basic points. And of course, हमारे लिए at the end we have to go to the mark schemes. So inshallah, for the time that we have to do it quickly, let's go through. There are 2 questions that I want to show you. This first question is from October, November 2019, variant 4.1, यानी कि बिल्कुल recent ही है, बल्कि जो last हुआ है, COVID वाला तो हुआ ही नहीं. This is question 9, and this is for 7 marks. It says, compare the characteristic features of members of kingdoms fungi and animalia. देखिए जब भी आपने इस तरह का क्वेश्चन देखना है बच्चों, यू हैव टू लुक एट द वेरी बिग पिक्चर। क्लासिफिकेशन की मैंने क्या पिक्चर ड्रॉ की है, सबसे ऊपर डोमेन्स हैं, which there are three domains: bacteria, archaea and eukarya, and then eukarya has the four classification system, which is Animalia, Plantae and Protoctista. तो इसने जो हमसे क्वेश्चन में पूछा हुआ है, it's basically has to do with eukarya, and he is asking you to compare fungi and Animalia. So it's a 7 marker question. Look, they've given a 15 points. So let's go through them one by one. And I'm sure all of these that we see, we've seen them already in our lesson today. सबसे पहली बात, उसने कॉमन पॉइंट्स दिए हैं फंगस और एनिमेलिया के, फिर उसने सेपरेट दिए हैं फंगाई ओनली एंड एनिमेलिया ओनली. ओके, सो नंबर 1, फंगा एंड एनिमेलिया बोथ आर यूकैरियोटिक सेल्स. डिटेल और फिर यूकैरियोटिक सेल्स की डिटेल बताएं. फॉर एग्जांपल, दे हैव न्यूक्लियस, लीनियर डीएनए, क्रोमोसोम्स, हिस्टोन्स, ATS ribosomes, and named membrane-bound organelles like chloroplasts for, sorry, not chloroplasts, वो तो plants के लिए होंगी. यहाँ पे fungi and animalia की बात हो रही है, like mitochondria and so on and so forth, and even nucleus. It's a membrane-bound organelle. Okay, and then of course you have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. या उसको describe कर दें, and then reference to glycogen. They have glycogen granules. I think I didn't mention this. Permanent मैंने बात की थी कि vacuoles जो हैं वो permanent नहीं होते, लेकिन glycogen granules basically they have. You know that animals, they don't store starch, but they store glycogen. And then something common to fungi is that they're unicellular. They have hyphae, mycelium, multinucleate parts. देखिए मैंने आपको डायग्राम में बताया था इसकी के इसने यहाँ पे एक न्यूक्लियस ड्रॉ किया हुआ है, लेकिन एक्चुअली देयर आर मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाई. There are multiple nuclei. And then where did I go? Yeah, reference to spores, cell walls of chitin. And then animal only के लिए, they are multicellular. They have specialized cells. They differentiate into tissues and organs. ये जो levels of organization वाली बात मैंने आपको बताई थी. Some are motile and some have cilia and flagella. Now, as simple as this may seem, इसकी examiner report मैं जरा पढ़ना चाह रहा हूँ. देखें काफी लंबा चौड़ा उसने comment किया हुआ है. Let's see what he has to say, and let's do an introspection. Please pay attention. Most candidates gained some credit for accounts of similarities and differences between members of two kingdoms. Many presented their responses in a form of a table. Okay, so वो encourage कर रहा है कि अच्छी बात है. The features of kingdom fungi were on the whole better described than those of Animalia. Most candidates appreciated, अब fungi की बात कर रहा है, that they are unicellular. Number 1, often giving yeast as an example, although some, for example, mushrooms can be multicellular. Many stated that fungi consist of hyphae, have a cell wall composed of chitin, reproduce by means of spores. अच्छा जी, फिर Animalia के लिए many candidates commented on the multicellular nature of these organisms, and that that most would be motile. Reference to, अब ये देखें, ये वाला point मैं इधर आपको बताना चाह रहा हूँ. References to specialized cells differentiated into tissues were less frequent, as was the mention of presence of cilia or flagella on some cells. The most common shared characteristics included linear DNA with associated histones, membrane-bound organelles, which were often listed, and ATS ribosomes. Although many recognize that both kingdoms belong to domain eukarya, few mention that they are composed of eukaryotic cells. इसीलिए आप देखें पहली बात जो हमने की है, जो यूकेरिया के हैं उनके बारे में मैंने क्या कहा है, that they are eukaryotes, और फिर cells की बात की है आगे. ठीक है, so you have to talk in terms of eukaryotic cells. Okay, so that's an important point. Some candidates stated that both have heterotrophic nutrition, although others believe that fungi are autotrophic. That's wrong. No references to glycogen were seen. Weaker candidates confused fungi with bacteria, so achieved no credit. I hope आप में से ऐसा कोई भी नहीं होगा for either of the common features of two kingdom or of the fungi alone. Okay. And then at the end, I also have for you virus वाला question भी एक है. Yep, there you go. Lazy. Viruses are not included in the 3-domain classification system as they have different features from most organisms. अच्छा जी, डिस्क्राइब द फीचर्स ऑफ वायरसेस, 8 मार्क्स। ये कौन सा है जी? ये भी अक्टूबर नवंबर 19 के दूसरे वेरिएंट में उसने पूछे। ये देखें 15-15 पॉइंट्स उसने आपको बता दिए। दिस इज अ ट्रीट फॉर यू फॉर योर नोट्स। ओके, सो दे आर नॉट सेलुलर, कंटेन न्यूक्लिक एसिड्स, आइदर डीएनए आरएनए, डीएनए में भी सिंगल और डबल स्ट्रैंडेड। ये बात मैंने मेंशन नहीं की थी, ये देख लीजिएगा। कोर सराउंडेड बाय प्रोटीन कोट, many have external lipoprotein envelope membrane. Again, I didn't mention this point. 20 to 750 nanometers. ये देखें अब साइज उसने मार्क्स की में एक सेपरेट मार्किंग पॉइंट दिया हुआ है। Obligate parasites, reproduced, replicated within the host cell. I did mention this. Disease causing है. They don't have their own metabolism. They rely on the host cells. Cannot move. Have proteins. Enzymes help to infection, highly specific to host cells. Yes, again, this is something that I didn't mention. Not thought to be living. ये A cell, not cellular वाला point ही है, same. और any valid point, lytic, अच्छा उसने lytic और lysogenic life cycles का भी point दे दिया। वाह, इतना generous है। और वो एक लंबी detail है, उसमें मैं नहीं जाऊँगा। That's the way how they reproduce. Few candidates had a clear and correct knowledge of features of virus. Answers that confuse viruses with prokaryotes and protoctists were common. Good answers generally covered points such as protein coat, presence of DNA or RNA, lack of respiration or some other features of metabolism, reproduction in host cell, and being non-living. Few answers linked viruses as obligate parasitism. ये क्या है obligate parasitism? कोई बताएगा, सुना है कभी? Ever heard of this word, obligate parasitism? हाँ जी बच्चों, दिस इज बेसिकली अ फॉर्म ऑफ अ पैरासिटिज्म। आपको पता है, मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था, म्यूचुअल रिलेशनशिप्स पे भी पैरासिटिज्म होती है। बहरहाल इट्स ओके दैट you don't need to go into details of this, so I just don't want to scare you with this detail. चलें जी, सो अब हमारे पास जो बाकी पोर्शन रह गया है वो तो आप यकीन करें करवाना तो मैंने आपको है, लेकिन it is very easy. It will be wonderful if you take out some time today to read all of that, ताकि कल जब मैं आपको सारा करवा के टॉपिक खत्म करूं तो आपको easily समझ में आ जाए. Again, a lot of theory stuff that we have to do today. I'm hopeful that we will be finishing this topic by tomorrow, inshallah. ठीक है बच्चों, any questions for today? No questions for today? ये मैं जो आज मैंने क्वेश्चंस करवाए हैं इनकी मैं स्नैपशॉट लेके अभी आपके नोट्स पे पेस्ट कर दूं ताकि when I no wait stop okay, और तो ये वायरसेस के साथ कर देते हैं और बैक्टीरिया और उसके साथ कर देंगे इंशाल्लाह. हाँ जी बच्चों, एनी क्वेश्चंस फॉर टुडे? राबिया, फरियाल एंड खतीजा. No questions? चलें जी, थैंक यू. इंशाल्लाह सी यू टुमारो सेम टाइम. अपना बहुत ख्याल रखें. अल्लाह हाफिज़.